My name is Dr. Jack Lewis. I'm a neuroscientist, and I'm on a journey to understand everything there is to know about the human brain. The human brain is the most complex part of our body. Many mysteries remain about how this most vital of vital organs controls every aspect of our lives. But over the last few decades, our knowledge has expanded in leaps and bounds.
That was a shock to the system.
Now we're getting ready to push it to the limits, finding out how our brains react to unusual conditions and surprising challenges.
This is the strangest experience of my life.
Let's do it. I'm setting out on a journey. A journey to meet some people with remarkable neurological conditions.
One of the most common questions is, how is it wired to your brain?
That give us a unique insight into the inner workings of the brain.
I discovered people who are able to remember almost every day of their life.
In this episode, we'll mess with your mind to show you what memory is.
That is insane.
Imagine if you could remember every single day of your life.
So, the 7th of March, 1984.
That same day, a horse called Dawn Run, a famous Irish horse, won the champion hurdle at Cheltenham.
You have this incredible memory.
I'll be running my own memory experiments and finding out what it takes to become a memory athlete.
I'm the reigning world memory champion. 73179. Okay, I think I'm finished.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
And with the help of magician Pete Heat, I'm going to find out just how easily our memories can be trained or fooled.
Say the whole word in your head, Valentine, is that right? Okay, good.
What's going on deep inside your head? Join me to uncover the secrets of the brain.
Chin chin.
So how good is your memory? Good enough to remember a terrible joke? Good enough to never need a shopping list? Good enough to remember the number pi to 100,000 decimal places? It's at the heart of who we are. Our memory shapes the story of our lives and allows us to interact with the world without every day seeming strange and unfamiliar. And crucially, it helps us to avoid making the same mistakes twice. I'm on my way to meet a man who could give us an extraordinary insight into how we remember our lives. He's one of only a handful of people in the world who've been diagnosed with hyperthymesia, or superior autobiographical memory. Hyperthymesia is a syndrome that allows the sufferer to remember the minute details of their everyday life for years. You may not remember what you were doing on the same day last week, what you ate, what you wore, or who you met. But people with hyperthymesia are able to recall all of these things. And not just for days ago, but for decades ago. It's as if there's a recording device in their brain where every detail has been accurately stored. James McMahon is a 45-year-old sports journalist who lives in Dublin. He can remember more or less every day of his life.
So it's not that you have a highly trained memory, it's just that your memory specifically for things that happen to you.
Yeah, it's this autobiography in the course of my life.
But if, for instance, I were to roll these dice and just sort of use chance to come up with some random dates. So pick a decade.
1980s.
Okay, the 80s, so this would be the last number. It came up a 4, so 1984. And now we're going to go for the month. March 1984. So, the 7th of March 1984.
It was a cloudy, overcast, dull day in Sligo. The previous Friday was, I remember, hailstones. The budget was on the following Tuesday, the 13th of March, the British budget. And on that same day, a horse called Dawn Run, a famous Irish horse, won the champion hurdle at Cheltenham, which is a big race.
You know, for me, when I go back to the 7th of March 1984, I literally have no idea what I was doing. It was 4 days after my birthday.
5 days.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to.
No. I appreciate you fixing my math.
Having a search engine for a brain might sound amazing. But while we can be selective when using a web browser like Google, just searching for the interesting facts we need, James's brain is less choosy. Most of us forget the unimportant stuff, but James's brain seems to upload everything that's happened to him to his long-term memory.
And it could be the most mundane event. It could be the most mundane event in my life. I mean, the weather is important because it paints a texture. There's a visual quality there, and I can see whether the sky is blue or whether it's pouring down with rain.
You can actually remember the weather on each and every day.
I don't know what the percentage would be. It would be pretty high.
It seems to be that it could have some uses in life. It could be quite beneficial.
Well, I mean, Google has come in and kind of stolen some of my thunder.
Let's try something from the noughties. The 3rd of July, 2009. Did anything interesting happen?
I went to a friend's house the night before, and we were drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Still drinking?
Yeah, because I was off work that day. And I remember thunder and lightning the 2 days before, on the 1st of July.
But the difference between the rest of us and you is that you can recall specific details, like we can for the big emotional events.
Like, I mean, I'm sure... Like,
for more pedestrian things
like,
that happen to you.
I mean, people of a certain generation will remember where they were, what they were doing when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963.
Yeah.
You will remember things like that.
But you remember being up till 9 in the morning drunk on a specific day.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
James, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much, Zach. Thank you.
We'll join James later as he takes part in a groundbreaking study to find out where his unusual brain is storing all these personal memories and how he's able to recall them so easily.
What we were trying to understand is if there are patterns of connectivity that are different in James compared to the normal population.
Memories for events that have occurred in our lifetime are called episodic memories. But that's just part of the story. The flip side of the coin is semantic memory, or more simply, our knowledge. As adults, we've already acquired much of the knowledge we need to function day to day. But the younger you are, the harder your memory has to work. Students are expected to both learn and then demonstrate their mastery of this knowledge, testing their semantic memory to the max. Hence, the frantic cramming that goes on in the run-up to exams.
Time for magician Pete Heat to see if he can beat them at their own game.
Would either of you two say that you have a particularly good memory?
Relatively decent, yeah.
Okay.
No, quite bad.
So you've all got quite a bad memory, okay. You use little techniques. So if you've got an exam coming up, just read it a few times?
Yeah, read it loads of times.
Yeah, so just sort of rote learning, you just force it in there.
Pretty much, yeah.
We do it over and over again.
Over and over
Sticks, doesn't it? Okay, that works, doesn't it? Yeah, it just takes up a lot of time, yeah. The reason why I ask is because I'm always trying to kind of push myself in terms of what my brain can actually do. So as well as the sort of sleight of hand and that kind of thing. And I've tried to pick up on skills like reading people's body language, trying to work out what they're thinking. And one thing specifically that I've been practicing is memory. I've got a little bit of light reading here. You will have heard of Shakespeare, I'm sure. Yeah. Yes, good. I think I've memorised the whole book. Every single play, I think, word for word. I'm going to give this to one of you who wants it. Okay, perfect. So basically, if you just flick through for me and check that there's like thousands, if not millions of words in there, they're all different. Basically, I just want you to check that it is actually a book of Shakespeare plays. Yeah. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'd like you to open the book to a random page and hold it sort of so I can't look over it because I'm quite tall. So open it wherever you want. Okay, do you want to start on the left-hand page or on the right-hand page?
Left-hand.
On the left-hand page, okay. So just look at that first word on the column for me, and then look at me. Just from your eyes, and this is a bit of a guess. I'm going to start quite vague. Okay. Is it something to do with It's like quite a positive word, something to do with maybe love or but like I'm picturing something like two hearts coming together, or that's the vague image that I'm getting here. Is that about right? What's the word you're thinking of?
Married.
Married. Okay, so two hearts coming together. That's perfect. Okay, are you thinking of a P?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm imagining like wings moving. Is that right?
Yeah, raven.
Raven. No, it is a bird. Okay. Say the whole word in your head. Valentine. Is that right? Okay, good. Move your eyes down to the bottom of the page. Picture just a letter from near the end of the word somewhere. Okay, yeah? Did you think of two letters there?
Yeah.
It was something like an S, but then you changed it to an E, I think. Is that right? Yeah? Okay. Think of the first letter for me. That's a W, right? Yeah. I think so. It's something quite a violent image. So I'm guessing it's something like weapon or weapons. Is it? Yeah. Okay. All right. And there's the word something like enemies.
Yes.
Enemies.
Well, it's enemies.
It's exactly enemies. Yes. Brilliant. Because I have genuinely tried to memorise this whole book, I think I can get more specific now. Now I know where we are. So if you go to the second column now and go to the top of that column. Heavy lightness.
Yeah.
Serious vanity.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's a line break, and it's misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms. Is that right? Next line, I think. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Is that right? Yeah. Brilliant. Yes. No. Good. And they in France of the still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I that feel no love in this. Is that right? Brilliant. Wow, amazing. Have I convinced you? Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
That is insane. How is that possible? Oh, wow.
That's amazing. I reckon you can improve your memory with like techniques and stuff, but to an extent, not like that. That was crazy. I don't understand.
Pete's playing to a captive audience. They're amazed because we don't tend to think of memory as capable of being such a precise tool. But it's not only magic that can make us realise just how remarkable our memories are. Whilst Pete creates the illusion of having an amazing memory, how does it actually work in real life? Let's start with our short-term memory. The briefest of these are visual memories that last only a quarter of a second. Here's a fun way to see your ultra-short-term visual memory in action. I want you to focus on the dot in the middle of the screen as I show you a series of faces. Keep focusing on that dot. Round about now, you'll probably see something very odd. Big eyes with small noses, huge noses with tiny eyes. Weird, almost alien-like. Now let me show you the faces again. I promise I haven't changed them at all. This time, look directly at them. They should look totally normal. So what's going on? You're seeing your iconic short-term memory in action. Each time you see a face, your brain stores it briefly so it can process other information. When the face changes very rapidly in your peripheral vision, the memory of the previous face distorts your perception of the new face. So if the first face had big eyes, your brain will make the next face have big eyes too. And if it should have had small eyes, it will look very odd indeed. The more stable form of short-term memory is known as working memory. This is where our prefrontal and parietal cortex hold information in mind in a readily available state for use right now. For example, you need to remember what I said at the beginning of this sentence in order to make sense of the whole thing by the time I reach the end. This information will quickly disappear unless we decide it's important enough to keep. If it is, it's turned into a long-term memory by a structure deep in the brain called the hippocampus. Those memories are then stored across the brain. Similar memories stick together. So spoken memories settle near the language centers, while visual memories are stored near the visual cortex, and so on.
But no two brains are quite alike, so everybody has a different capacity for memory.
It's time to put your working memory to the test. Take a look at Pete's objects and try to remember them. Got it? Here's a reminder. Did you remember the first object? The last? The middle ones? Notice anything strange? If you did, well done. If you didn't, don't worry. We tend to remember the first and last items in a list best. This is called the serial position effect. So we were able to plant a new object in the middle without some of you noticing.
Whilst James can remember pretty much every day of his life, imagine if you could memorize tens, hundreds, or even thousands of digits in just a few minutes. Impossible? Well, think again. Some people have an extraordinary capacity for mental recall. Memory athletes can rapidly memorize huge lists of numbers, words, and objects that would leave the average person scratching their head in frustration.
My name is Jonas van Essen, and I'm the reigning world memory champion.
Memory is such a fascinating phenomenon that, believe it or not, there really is a world championship in its honour. Jonas scored the highest number of points in the competition's 22-year history. But just a few years ago, he had a memory no better than yours or mine.
I actually got into this quite by chance. I just stumbled upon a book at my local library that said that anyone could get an amazing memory. So I started to read this book, and I tried out the memory techniques that were described in it. And I noticed that I immediately, with these techniques, could remember like hundreds of things, or at least much more than I could before. And of course I was very motivated then to keep on developing this sort of hidden superpower.
Just to double check he's the real deal, we're putting Jonas to the test. We're asking him to look through a deck of cards and memorize the order. Then we'll ask him to put another deck in the same order. Sounds hard, but because he's a memory champ, we're making it even tougher. He'll have to memorize the cards while riding on a roller coaster.
I think in this roller coaster challenge, the most difficult thing will be to hold onto the cards so that I don't drop them.
Fighting talk.
So here I have the deck that I just memorized from the roller coaster. And then I also have another deck here that is just ordered from ace to king in all the colors. Yes, all correct.
What's fascinating is that while Jonas is able to remember the order of all those cards, he's no better at remembering events in his life than you or me. On the other hand, although James is able to remember almost every autobiographical detail, he's no better than anyone else at recalling general knowledge. James is one of just a handful of people in the entire world who was born with an astounding ability to recall his personal memories. Jonas is one of a growing army of memory athletes who, through self-training, have proved that our working memory can be boosted to hold far more for far longer than most of us ever believed possible. People like Jonas are known as super memorizers. London taxi drivers are another famous example. A scientific study of super memorizers showed that when remembering these huge quantities of information, they engage several different parts of the brain associated with spatial memory. While it's easy to understand why remembering a route through a city might use brain areas involved in spatial memory, why would Jonas use it to store memories of something seemingly completely unrelated, like a sequence of cards? I'll be joining him later for a memory masterclass to find out.
How in the world did you do that?
I'm going to set myself a challenge. I'm going to take 4 people with pretty average memories and see if I can significantly improve their recall in just 1 hour. I've selected volunteers with average memories like you or me. There are no Jameses or Jonases here. This experiment is very simple. You're going to be shown a series of images, 15 in total, and your job is quite simply to memorize them. Let's roll the images. People's perception of how good their memory is often bears no relation to reality whatsoever.
Glasses, scissors, teapot, gun, apple,
football, sock puppet, telephone, hole punch,
a stapler, plant, and this is where I go vague. God, what else was there?
That's it, I think.
No one remembered the cup, the Rubik's Cube, the spade, or the binoculars. How did you do?
The average capacity of this kind of memory is 7 items plus or minus 2. And the range we had here fits that perfectly, from 6 to 9. Over the next part of the session, we're going to do something a little bit different. You simply take a chocolate, put it on your nose, and without touching it at all, you've got to find a way to eat the chocolate.
I'm not just doing this to make them look silly. Honest. Laughter can actually do wonders for the brain.
So next up, it's really straightforward. We're just going to do exactly the same thing again for phase 2. 15 images, see how many you can remember this time. Most of you improved on that one, and the reason is that we made you feel relaxed. Cortisol, the stress hormone, the levels of that would have gone down. Laughter is well known to suppress cortisol. Conversely, whenever you're feeling happy, usually your dopamine levels have increased. That tells your brain, pay attention to this stuff, it's worth remembering. The next and final stage is simply to construct a story out of the next 15 images that you see in order to help you remember as many as possible. But you must always, as much as possible, make sure that whatever happens in that story is highly emotional. Don't just rely on your visual brain, but if you can introduce what it would smell like, the sounds that would be in that emotional scene, it will make it much more easy to recall.
So my dog Rosie comes in from the garden, it's a fluffy dog, and she does a really bad poo on the kitchen floor, toilet paper.
They bought a skeleton and some flowers.
Which puts on a swimming cap and goggles.
He was drunk he had been drinking wine. Then she grabs a wooden gun and she said, "I'm going to shoot you, Mummy."
Because they were going to see Peggy, which was the pegs.
Suddenly, a Tyrannosaurus Rex,
which puts on a helmet,
and was hiding in like a little toy box that you put shapes through.
And gets wrapped up in the gaffer tape.
And they all started playing cards and calculating with a calculator. And then the last thing I remember is a great big shoe comes down and hits us all and crushes my house.
This time, our test subjects remembered every object between them.
Well done, everyone.
And not only that, their individual results improved by 27% compared with the first test. I set myself the target to see if I could significantly improve people's memory in just 1 hour, and job done. So what are the other ways you can improve your memory? Well, it all boils down to regular exercise. We all know that if we want to make our bodies stronger and faster, we need to regularly exercise our muscles. But the same thing goes for the brain and memory. The more often you try and recall a specific memory, the more likely you are to remember it accurately. And that's because repetition creates a stronger link between the co-activated neurons that actually store it. So what have we learned so far? Well, you may not have James's remarkable episodic recall or Jonas's incredible working memory. But you can instantly improve your recall using simple techniques, like putting a helmet on a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The existence of memory techniques like this can help magicians and illusionists to persuade us that they also have an amazing recall. But we also know that magicians often can't be trusted. So, is Pete a memory master or top trickster?
How good would you say your memory is?
It's okay.
Okay-ish.
Do you think you can memorise a whole pack of cards?
Definitely not.
It sounds difficult, and that's because it is. I'll give those to you for a second. Okay, shuffle them, give them a cut, whatever you want. Happy? Yeah, okay, sure. Good. And we'll do one more thing. I'm going to shuffle them a little bit more. Can you just say stop somewhere, wherever you want? Just say stop wherever you want. Stop. Put it in your pocket without looking at it. Okay, good. We're going to take one more card, and this time I do want you to look at it. If you just grab one. Take one, because I do want you to look at it, and you can show the camera as well. Okay, perfect. And just drop that back in for me. Okay. So here's the difficult part. Here's where I'm going to try and actually memorise the packs. Okay. Done. You looked at a card, right? You're thinking of one, yeah? If you tell me what that card is, I'll tell you where in the pack it is. What was the card that you looked at?
Six of
The
diamonds.
six of diamonds, okay. That is the 10th card down. I think it's directly after the four of clubs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the 9th, which I think, like I say, is the four of clubs. Yes. And so the next one. Yes.
Oh my God,
okay.
no way.
Okay, good.
Oh my God.
I think the one card I didn't see was the Ace of Hearts. Remember at the beginning, you took a card and you didn't look at it, right? You just took one out and put it in your pocket, yeah? Could you reach in and have a look?
Oh my God.
You got the Ace of Hearts, but if we really want to do well, we want the other aces as well. So if I cut there, there, and there.
Oh my God, no.
That is the other three aces. That is a killer hand. There you go. You're going to clean up with that.
It's incredible.
The way he reads the deck and just the way he finds the card.
Should be the other three aces.
I was trying to kind of figure out how he was doing it. It was all a bit weird.
Yeah, that's your forest.
Yeah, it's impressive. Within, what, 15 seconds, you memorise them all.
Now this may just be magic, but how often are we tricked by our own memories? Even people with extraordinary memories can sometimes make things up without realising it. Your memories can't always be trusted. Take a look at this clip. A car driver's nightmare. But how much do you remember? Do you remember the colour of the car? That's right, it was red. And the colour of his jacket? It was black. But can you pick out the car thief in a lineup? If you can, well done. If you couldn't, even better. In fact, none of these faces featured in that scene. You just created a false memory. Many people will genuinely think they recognise the robber. Most of the time, this kind of false memory is harmless. Unless, of course, you're a witness in a court case. Every time we revisit a memory, we rewrite it. That means that if we recall something and someone introduces a new detail, perhaps something that didn't actually happen, that will overwrite the original memory. From that point on, we'll recall the false detail along with the true ones. To show how Pete takes advantage of this, take a look at this trick. Pete demonstrates with magic how we can create false memories. Pay attention to these two cards. Now Pete will make them disappear in the middle of the deck, then seemingly make them rise to the top again. Let's watch that again. The cards are not the same as before, but the likeness leads us to believe they were. Pete simply organised the deck so the similar cards were positioned at the top underneath the two starting cards. We confabulate, that is, filling in the gaps in our memories continually. And we have no awareness that we're constantly adjusting our memories to fit in with our self-perception and the world around us. But there are a handful of people who don't need to do this, because for them, they can recall almost every detail of their life, clear as a bell. James, who has hypothymesia, has arrived at Hull University to meet Professor Mazzoni, one of the world's leading specialists in personal memory. He's taking part in a unique trial in the hope of finding out exactly what's going on inside his unusual brain.
I discovered the existence of people who are able to remember almost every day of their life. And we have found actually only 5 people.
What I would be looking forward to seeing is how different, if any way, my brain is different from the ordinary human being out there.
We examined James' brain using functional magnetic resonance imaging, and it provides us a very good picture of the brain and what happens in the brain in response to stem stimulation.
The brains of the people she's studying were stimulated by simply calling out random dates from their lifetime.
For every single date that we asked them, these people were able to report either a full-blown memory or some partial elements of the events that happened that date. For that specific type of memory, they are really exceptional. What we were trying to understand is if there are patterns of connectivity that are different in James compared to the normal population, which areas were becoming active, and the sequence of activation.
For James, it's the moment of truth, as he's about to get the results of his scans, and the first ever insight into the workings of his brain.
In general, your memory is just within the norm, but you have this spike, incredible memory for your personal events. As you can see, the main active area is an area which is in your visual fields. It is interesting to see that there is relatively little activation in the temporal areas, not that much. So it is as if really the visual component is the predominant component, is the winner. There is also some connection to some areas in the frontal lobe linked with the sense of this is my own memory. Basically an activation at the same time of the visual part, and then this element that says, okay, these visual parts are mine. Usually people get these posterior areas active much, much later in time. You and also these other people get this activation much earlier in time.
James's highly active visual brain explains why whenever he calls up a memory, it tends to start with a strong visual recollection.
The 3rd of July, 2009.
I remember thunder and lightning 2 days before.
For them, their ability to access information is really incredible. James takes approximately 1.5 seconds on average to access his memories, which is quite amazing if you consider that, for example, in the normal population, accessing autobiographical memories takes approximately 12 seconds.
We retrieve personal memories in two ways. For events that have occurred in our more distant past, we reconstruct the memory, which can be an unreliable and time-consuming process.
If I ask you, what did you do during your vacation in 1995? If you were me, I would say, 1995, what was I doing? Work-wise, vacation-wise, where did I decide to go?
For me, it's like if you mention a date, I can tell you where I went on holidays in 90, but then I can fill in the little bits and pieces that I did. Like I know that I went over to London in 1995. I can remember getting on the plane that morning.
We call personal memories that are accessed more quickly as direct memories. For me, the interesting aspect in studying, people like you, is that this direct access to personal memories can function beautifully and can function on an everyday basis and can function as the default retrieval mode.
For James, events from years ago are recalled as quickly and easily as something that happened yesterday. The scans prove that James's brain really is unique.
What it seems that happens to you is that basically, for your personal events, all your memories are accessed directly. Does your brain works differently? Certainly, these differences are significant.
It's fun to remember things that you did in your life or things that other people did in their lives, people that are close to you that were important as well. But all too often, you tend to also remember, some of the sadder times as well.
The insights gained from James's brain scans may even help people with memory defects in the future.
People who have milder forms of memory impairment before it leads into real dementia. People with difficulties in remembering because they have some forms of amnesia. People with epilepsy, with temporal lobe epilepsy. We might find a way to implement different strategies and different ways of remembering.
So there's no hope for me to train my brain to recall episodic memories like James. His brain is hardwired in a way that's impossible to emulate through sheer willpower and hard work. But that's not to say my hopes of improving my memory are dashed forever.
If Jonas von Essen managed to transform his memory from average to incredible in just a few years, is this something we could all achieve? I want to see for myself how the reigning world memory champion does it. I'm setting Jonas a challenge that to me seems impossible. And I'm hoping he might reveal the secrets of his success along the way.
Jonas!
Jack.
How are you?
Fine.
It's an honor to meet you, the reigning world memory champion. Brilliant. Well, I've set up a little challenge for you. Yeah. So on every door around this circular redoubt, we have 12 numbers. So that's 264 numbers. And I'd like to see how well you do. How long typically would it take for you to memorize that many numbers?
Well, if I was sitting in a competition and had them all on the paper, then I can really get into a flow like this. The most extreme quickness would maybe be 3 minutes or something like this. So here, of course, it's a little bit different because I have to walk or run from door to door. So it will take much longer to really get it secure.
Wow, it sounds like a lot of hard work. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you in action.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to try. And if you also think that you have a quite good memory, then maybe you'll like to join me as well.
Is that a challenge?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Pick a door, any door.
Let's go to the light, perhaps.
May the best man win.
Okay, I think I'm finished.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm only on my third door. Okay, to the middle, let's compare notes.
Yeah.
I know you're a world memory champion and everything, but I feel slightly ashamed that you lapped me 3 times. So, shall I give you mine?
Yeah.
Or will that confuse you?
No, it's okay. Now, like once they are stored stored for maybe at least a day or so.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could sleep on it, wake up tomorrow, and then still know them?
Yeah, usually, yes.
I like the fact that you don't need a clipboard with the numbers on it like I will, just to confirm whether or not I got this right. You can do it from your memory.
Yeah.
So, I remember 304 100 508 970 978. No. Back up. I was turning the number upside down. 670 678 639
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So, are you still feeling confident?
Yeah. Okay, and where do you want me to start?
Can you start anywhere I want?
Yeah, sure.
So the first line is 631 545.
Okay. So I'll start there. 631545 31 and then 38.
Yeah.
So in Swedish it's very clear, but okay. So,
very good.
38. And then we've got
7317552 Every single one. How in the world did you do that?
Yeah, well, it's actually a lot more easy than it seems.
I managed to memorize 36 numbers, straining every neuron in my brain, whereas you got 264 in exactly that same period of time.
Well, it's really all about knowing certain memory techniques and then applying them.
Tell me about it. So if I want to be a memory champion, what can I do?
Yeah, well, actually, it's quite simple. You just have to learn some memory techniques. And all of the best techniques are based upon 2 major ideas. And the first idea is that you can remember things better by converting them into something more memorable.
Okay, so for example, a load of numbers up here. What kind of images do you use for those numbers?
Yeah, well, for me, I have a system where I've changed every 2-digit number into an image.
Okay, so what's 00?
00, that's like a big snowball.
Ah, and what about 19?
That's an egg.
An egg?
Yeah.
What about 36?
That's like a CD, a compact disc. So then I usually combine 3 of these pairs together. So then I see this big snowball. And then on top of it lies an egg. And then there comes like a big rotating CD, just cutting through the egg and the snowball. The more interesting this image is and the more that happens in it, of course, the better you remember it.
So, now you've heard how Jonas does it, could you be better at remembering numbers? Give each number from 1 to 10 a visual image. And now try this test. I'm going to read a list of numbers and I'd like you to remember them. 9 5 4 3 1 0 2 and 1. Got that? What was the sequence I read out then? The correct one was this. Don't panic if you didn't quite get it. It's not easy to make up a unique image for each digit on the fly. And anyway, this is a simpler version of the tests that are used in the World Memory Championships. So, what are the other methods that Jonas uses to remember objects or numbers?
The second principle is that you sort of associate the things that you want to remember to different places so that you order them in your mind. It doesn't sound as if it's going to help so much, but actually you can use this to memorize thousands of objects placed on a big route. For example, I usually use amusement parks to get many different spots to place my images on.
But it's important that the place, the memory palace where you spread the objects to be remembered, is actually a place you know very well in real life.
Yes, or at least you have to be able to see yourself walking through it.
Cool.
This concept of putting objects in places inside a familiar location in your imagination is called the memory palace technique. If you think of an elephant on your bed or a penguin in the bath, it's likely to stay with you. Super Memorizer's use of this technique, creating journeys through space in their mind's eye, explains why they use brain areas specialized for spatial memory to store objects and numbers. So, were you paying attention during the show? How good is your memory? Here's a final memory test for you. Earlier in the show, Pete made the same card disappear 3 times. Can you remember which one? Don't worry if you didn't get it. Not all of us can have James's remarkable brain.
James. Hi, Jack.
How you doing? You well?
Good now, good. The previous Friday, I remember hailstones.
Seeing how and why his memory is wired differently.
But you have this spike, incredible memory.
Has given us a unique insight into how our own brains lay down memories. And not all of us will have the phenomenal recall that Jonas has.
Yes, all correct.
But learn how to train up your working memory and you too could be a world-famous memory athlete.
7, 5.
Last question. Can you remember how to tell when Pete is feeding you a false memory?
Okay.
The answer is, you can't. So watch out.
That is insane.
Minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, we're overloaded by events to store in memory. But what James and Jonas and their extraordinary brains tell us is that by understanding the way we recall our lives and memories of the world around us, we're one step closer to unlocking the secrets of the brain.